So you guys have just come back from Japan. The show's called Wood Fight in Japan. Tell us a bit about the trip and what made you go and those sort of details.
Yeah, for a while we sort of had a bit of a fascination with Japan. And Japan is kind of the mecca for ceramicists and ceramics. In Japan, there's just such a wide breadth of work and kiln styles and just an amazing history of ceramics, which they've just brought to such a high level. So the impetus to go is when you start making pots, there's a real draw to go there and to see, you know, all those styles of kilns and clays and glazes and everything. It's just, you know, to such a high level and such a high degree.
Tell me a little bit about the wood firing process that you undertook in Japan.
So we went out and we were in two different very traditional clay areas / pottery villages, each with distinct kind of like flavours and slightly different types of kilns. So at first we were in Tamba, which is one of the 6 ancient kiln sites. We were able to look at all these amazing massive pots. You know, some of them were like nearly 1,000 years old, and the weird thing is that the pots that are made, you know, at the moment, some of them are not looking that different. What's interesting about Japan is that the wood-fired aesthetic has always been celebrated, whereas I think in Europe often it's been sort of hidden. As soon as there was like electric or gas or whatever, then that was sort of celebrated because you could get a very kind of clean look. Whereas wood-fired pots get all these like serendipitous, sort of exciting bits of ash flying and sticking to them. And you can put in pots without any glaze and they come out looking like they're glazed just from that natural ashing. Then we were in Tokoname with Peter Seabridge for another firing, and the two different firings. One was 6 days, so it's firing 24 hours, 6 days, with a crew of other people, but it's like pretty full on. And then those pots were more, I suppose, more ashy, more rich. But I actually preferred the Tokoname firing that was 3 days.
Well, it was interesting doing a really long firing, like 6 days. I mean, they go for even longer in Japan. They go for 9 days or 12 days, or, you know, continuous firing. But for us, yeah, we felt the way we'd like to take it is to shorter firings, more sort of flashing effects, and less of the kind of high ash kind of build up.
But also, the other thing that really comes up when you're doing wood firing is like how much wood is burnt, and it's astonishing. And being quite eco, or trying to be, it is a factor that we really are thinking about. So we are hoping to build a kiln, but we're just thinking, how can we do it in a one, affordable, and two, sustainable way? So we're thinking about how we could possibly. Well, we've got ash trees that we can coppice that need coppicing because of the ash dieback.
Sure.
But it's just balancing. If you fire it so quickly, you might not get any signs of having wood fire them. So it's kind of balancing it between, you know.
Yeah, it's definitely the serendipitous marks that you get from the wood firing that makes it so exciting. But it's not complete chance like the effects you get. I mean, pots have to be very carefully positioned in the kiln so that you're thinking about the fire path and therefore the ash path. So you might want one specific side to get the ashing.
There's a lot of variables. A lot of things you can sort of change and mess around with and alter to come up with different techniques.
Yeah, definitely. People spend lifetimes mastering kilns, and every kiln fire is different. It's like it's a personality in itself. Like,
can you tell me, because there's a strong link between Japan and Bideford and the sort of the ceramics produced around here. Tell us a bit about kind of how that worked and what people felt when you were on your trip.
It's a strange one because it's probably in the last 100 years since Bernard Leach kind of made the connection, and he was massively influenced by the North Devon pottery, but also like kind of the sort of local equivalent in Japan, and kind of fusing the two. And then off the back of that, it kind of spiraled out that a lot of people, both in Japan, got interested in North Devon ware, and people in the West Country getting interested in Japanese pottery. So there's been heaps of us, like, I don't know, hundreds that have made the cross connection. But it was also really interesting seeing in Japan different potters like Yoji Yamada, who had like got really interested by English slipware. So there's actually quite a few Japanese potters working in slipware in a way that's quite inspired by North Devon, which is quite interesting. And the kind of the way it had mutated actually was quite an inspiration to us as well.
So how did you get started? And tell us a bit about perhaps how the Burton, I mean, I know some of the story, but how the Burton has influenced what you've done.
So when I was about 18, through the Appledore Arts Festival, I think it was, and a collaboration with the Burton, there was a youth programme put on for wannabe ceramicists, I suppose, and I signed up. It was taught by Philip Leach, and we all made harvest jugs that were inspired by the collection at the Burton.
And we have your first harvest jug here, don't we? There's an inspiration, which is great.
Yeah, it weighs a ton, but it's definitely in the tradition.
And so that sort of early level of starting, obviously you worked over at the art school as well and took part in a programme. Did that get you hooked? Was that after that?
Yeah, definitely. I've been wanting to get in there forever. Like, I've always had this like feeling like I wanted to do pottery and get my hands on a wheel, but the wheels weren't actually accessible. So we were hand building, and Phil just said like, here's the clay, use as much as you want. So
you did.
I did. And one of the most exciting things about it was that the pots were wood-fired in the kiln outside the Burton as well, which was, so my very first pot was wood-fired, so I guess the grain was there, right from the beginning.
And you both work locally, so tell us a bit about your practice at the moment and where you, and how you work locally.
So we're working in a converted sort of agricultural shed now that we converted over the last, sort of whilst making pots, we've kind of been converting the space as well. And we work side by side really. I mean, we both throw, we both decorate, we do everything sort of independently and together. And then there's lots of discussion, I don't know, we're just constantly looking at pots and discussing designs and sort of aesthetics and possible future avenues, one of which at the moment is to build a wood-fired kiln of our own so that we can continue wood firing.
Well, we're very lucky to be the first gallery you've ever shown in, which is quite prestigious for us, and we're very delighted. What are your aspirations in future? Are you looking for more gallery shows or different venues to sell work, or is it a mixture of those things, all those things?
Well, we're at the beginning of our career in ceramics, and we want to hopefully show around the world one day, you know. The first step is building a wood kiln, and affording to build a wood kiln in the first place. Build it and start experimenting with surface. The most exciting thing is the making, but obviously you have to sell your pots.
Yeah. So finally, maybe just tell us a bit about the pots that are in here, if you've got any stories or anything that might be an interesting hook for people.
I mean, all of these clays and all of these glazes were new to us. So it's really amazingly eye-opening and inspiring. But one of the traditional techniques that we experienced or tried was hikadashi, where you fire the kiln right up to temperature, and you actually pull a couple of pots out at top temperature, so they're like glowing red hot, and it's quite risky because the pots can just break. So there's two pots in that end cabinet, the one on the plinth and the one at the bottom left, just below it. That got pulled out of the kiln. like that. So you get unusual glazes and effects from that.